In the beginning, there were no cities, no palaces, no great armies marching in formation, just wind. The Mongols came from the vast grasslands of Central Asia, an ocean of steppe stretching beyond the horizon. Life there was harsh, winters were brutal, food was uncertain. Tribes moved constantly with their herds, living in felt tents called yurts, surviving through skill, speed, and toughness. No one looking at those scattered nomadic clans in the 12th century would have predicted what was coming. But out of that unforgiving landscape rose a man who would change the world. His name was Genghis Khan. He was not born powerful. He was born Temujin, the son of a minor tribal leader. When his father was poisoned by rivals, Temujin's family was abandoned. They nearly starved, they were hunted. He grew up knowing betrayal, hunger, and violence. That childhood shaped him. Temujin learned that loyalty must be earned, but betrayal must be punished. He united tribes not just through force, but through a new system of loyalty. He broke traditional clan ties and reorganized warriors into units based on merit and trust, not bloodline. It was revolutionary. By the time he was declared Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler, he had united the Mongol tribes into a single war machine. And then he looked outward. What made the Mongols unstoppable was not just their brutality. It was their strategy. Mongol warriors were masters of horseback warfare. From childhood, they learned to ride before they could walk properly. They could fire arrows accurately while galloping at full speed. Each soldier often had multiple horses, allowing them to travel incredible distances without exhaustion. They moved faster than any army the world had ever seen. Their tactics were terrifyingly advanced. They staged fake retreats to lure enemies into traps. They communicated with signal flags and drums. They used intelligence networks to study cities before attacking. They were organized, disciplined, and relentless. When they struck hard. Cities that resisted were often destroyed completely. Mass killings were not rare, they were strategic. News of Mongol brutality spread ahead of them, convincing many cities to surrender without a fight. Fear became a weapon as powerful as any sword. Under Genghis Khan, the Mongols conquered vast territories across China, Central Asia, and parts of the Middle East. Empires that had stood for centuries fell in months. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, expansion did not stop. His sons and grandsons continued westward. One of them, Kublai Khan, would later rule China and establish the Yuan Dynasty. Another, Batu Khan, led Mongol forces into Eastern Europe. Cities like Kiev were destroyed. Mongol armies reached as far as Hungary and Poland. At its peak, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. It became the largest contiguous land empire in history. But here is where the story becomes more complex. The Mongols were brutal conquerors, but they were not mindless destroyers. Once territories were secured, they often allowed religious freedom. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and others practiced without persecution under Mongol rule. Trade routes were protected. The Silk Road flourished under Mongol control, connecting east and west like never before. For a time, the empire created what historians call the Pax Mongolica, a period of relative stability across Eurasia. Merchants traveled safely. Ideas moved freely. Technology spread. Gunpowder knowledge, printing techniques, and even the compass moved westward. The Mongols did not build massive cities of their own, but they protected the ones they controlled. And yet, the cost of their expansion was staggering. Entire populations were slaughtered. Some historians estimate that tens of millions died during Mongol campaigns. Cities that resisted were erased so completely that their names faded from maps. Irrigation systems were destroyed. Agricultural lands were devastated. The rise of the Mongols reshaped the demographic map of Eurasia. Ironically, their trade networks may also have helped spread one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, the Black Death. As merchants and caravans moved across Mongol-controlled territories, so did disease. Power that vast cannot remain united forever. After Kublai Khan's death, the empire fractured into separate khanates. The Golden Horde ruled parts of Russia. The Ilkhanate controlled Persia. The Yuan Dynasty ruled China. Though still powerful, they began acting independently. Distance became a problem. Communication slowed. Leadership weakened. Local rulers grew ambitious. Corruption crept in. Rebellions spread. In China, the Yuan dynasty faced resistance and was eventually overthrown. In Persia, internal conflicts weakened authority. In Russia, Mongol dominance gradually declined as local powers strengthened. The empire that had once moved like lightning across continents began to crumble from within. By the 14th century, the Mongol Empire had fragmented beyond repair. But its impact remained. Russia's political structure was deeply influenced by Mongol rule. China's borders and identity were reshaped. Trade between Europe and Asia had expanded dramatically. Even the age of exploration centuries later was partly inspired by stories brought back through Mongol trade networks. The Mongols did not disappear, they blended into the regions they had conquered. Some adopted local religions, others married into ruling families. The empire dissolved, but its legacy endured. The story of the Mongol Empire is not simple. It is not just about conquest and slaughter, nor is it just about trade and tolerance. It is about the extreme power of unity, speed, and strategy, and the extreme consequences of expansion without limit. From scattered nomadic tribes to the largest land empire in history, the Mongols proved that geography does not determine destiny. A people dismissed as outsiders reshaped the world in a single generation, but they also proved something else. An empire built on momentum must keep moving or it collapses. And when the movement stops, what remains is memory. The Mongol Empire rose from the wind of the steppe, swept across continents, and then faded back into history. But its shadow still stretches across Eurasia, reminding us how quickly power can rise and how brutally it can fall.